Bonnie, I think you were getting stronger as you read. I think you would have had 6 or 7 or 8 more chapters in you even. So thank you for covering those 4 for us. Very good. Well, as I said at the beginning of the service, next week is the blessing of the animals. And I think it's always good when the themes on a Sunday converge. So as I was looking at our September schedule, I saw that this week we're doing Noah's Ark. Next week we're doing Blessing of the Animals. That's 2 weeks in a row where animals are our main focus. We should have them on the same Sunday. But then I thought more about this Ark story, and I thought a more faithful application, if we did the Ark story on the same Sunday as Blessing of the Animals, would be that you would all bring your pets, your dogs, and then we'd pick one boy dog and one girl dog, and then all the other dogs. Well, we wouldn't do that. But this is a horrible story. It really is. It's supposed to be a children's story, I think. If you go into our education wing in the crib room, I think, or nursery, there's a mural of Noah's Ark, of all the animals on the boat, and it looks like all the animals are smiling, just so happy on the boat. Even the dolphins who didn't make it on the boat, they're in the water, they're smiling. It just seems like the happiest story, but it's not really a happy story. This story begins with regret. God's regret for having created the world. Do you know about regret? 2012 or 2013, let's say, and there are 2 college friends. They've just graduated from college and they need to find work, need to find something to do. Both of their dads work in business and can connect them with something. So one of the fathers says, "Son, move on home, get you a job in the office, show you around, you'll get connected, get you on your feet, it'll be a good thing." Son thinks that sounds okay, and he mentions it to his friend. They could both get jobs, that'd be fine, something to do. But the friend thinks this sounds terrible, like a total dead end. Guarantee that you'll just be doing the same thing in 3 or 4 or 5 years, living in your parents' basement, doing the same thing. And this friend also has an idea. So people love carry-out food. But the only thing they love more than carry-out food is not having to carry out the food themselves. So what if we invented this application or something that we could put on a phone, and this would connect someone on their phone to thousands of restaurants, and then the food could just come to your doorstep? Nah, I don't think that'll ever work, his friend says as he packs his car and moves back home with his parents. Regret. For 10 years, she played and she played and she played. Her mom played the piano when she was little, so they had a piano in their house. And even when she was just 3 or 4 years old, when she would touch the keys, she just knew what was supposed to come next. Sometimes she would look at her hands, sometimes she would look at the music, but it always lined up perfectly. Or she didn't even need music. Sometimes she could just be feeling something, and she would sit down on the piano bench and play. And it just worked. And she took lessons, and all her teachers told her mom, "We've never seen someone like this before. She has a gift." And she did have a gift. And she played and she played and she played. But being a teenager is hard. And it's hard having a gift. It's hard to feel everyone's expectations upon you. So she fought with her mom a lot. And after one really bad argument, she said, "That's it, Mom. I'm done. I'm not playing again." And she didn't. Went to college, studied something else, grew up, got married, got a job in the office. Sometimes her husband drives the car, and when she turns it on after he's been in it, she'll hear classical music on the radio. She has to turn it right off. She drives to the office, sits down at her desk, punches numbers into a computer, and just feels this ache in her stomach. Regret. They waited so long to have a child. Once they actually started trying to have a child, they couldn't get pregnant. So there were tests and more tests and more tests and money spent and more money spent. And finally they got pregnant. Great news, wonderful news. The pregnancy was hard. She was sick for the whole time. And the delivery was even harder. No one tells you this. You push and you push for 30 hours because you have to do it a natural way, but the baby doesn't come, and then the doctors say we need to intervene, so then they end up performing surgery that you could have done right away. Well, anyway, the baby comes and he's healthy, and that's good, and everybody's so happy for them, but they get home and it's so hard. The baby has a colic. He just cries and cries and cries, and they're exhausted. And he gets older, and he has a temper, and he makes them have a temper, and it's hard. He can't sit still in school. He hates school. He gets older. He can't stay in school. He can't stay sober. Some nights it's just mom and dad sitting at the table, and they don't know where he is. And it's just the two of them in their house, like before, except now, regret. Regret. We all have it, I think. We could pass a microphone around this sanctuary, and each of us could share a story of regret. And brick by brick, we would build one big, sad mansion of regret. And behind each door, there would be a story about what wasn't, or what could have, or should have, or would have been. And the biggest room in this whole house would belong to God. God's regret. Maybe it's greater than all of ours combined. At the start of this story, Noah's Ark, God regrets having made humankind because the hearts of people are inclined to be evil constantly. And this grieves God deeply. God is sorry to have created this world. So Rally Sunday. It's wonderful to have you here, right? We're starting at the beginning of the Bible this year, and each week we're going to have a new story that will connect, hopefully, with the previous week's story. First few months of the year, we're beginning in the Old Testament, and then we'll move into the New Testament, the Gospels, the stories about Jesus and his ministry. And we'll get to Good Friday and Easter. And then we'll round out the year with stories about the early church, the apostles. And maybe you will have heard these stories before, but they will become new again to you. Because here you are, a different person than you've ever been before, and your imagination will bring new possibilities to these texts. So we're going to do this for the year, but we're starting today, and we're starting with regret. Regret. And it's the oddest way to begin, because it would seem as if it should take a little bit longer for regret to develop. Do you know any regretful 2 or 3-year-olds? I don't know any regretful kids. I don't even think my kids quite know about regret yet, but, well... I thought he was gone. But... Well, anyway, you'll learn more about regret, Fred, as you get older. But here in the Bible, right at the beginning, in its most nascent stages, there is regret. And it would seem like this should have taken a little bit longer to get to. Maybe November or December we'd get to regret. But right here at the beginning, God has created the world and God regrets it. Now, we've been around for a while, so there is some regret in our world already. You hear this about the way people view our country. There is regret about America. Some people believe that it was once great. Others believe that it once aspired to be great. I think there's something right, at least somewhere in there. But what we all agree upon is that there is this cynicism and mutual resentment about things. we're all pretty sad, I think. And when I get to feeling too sad about things, sometimes I think back to a scene from a movie that I saw maybe 25 years ago. The movie is Amistad. It has Anthony Hopkins and Matthew McConaughey in it. It's about a slave ship. And there's a scene in the movie where this slave ship is on the Middle Passage, and the human cargo who are on the ship just throw themselves overboard into the waters to be drowned or eaten by sharks, rather than to live a lifetime in chains beneath the whip. And when I think of that, it oddly makes me maybe a little bit less sad about today, because maybe things have always been really bad. There's always been regret. Noah's Ark tells us that much. From the very, very beginning, God regrets having made creation, wishes that he hadn't brought this about, wishes that he just spent a couple more billion years home alone, rather than inviting all of us to join him. And I suppose that this story does end optimistically. There is that promise about the rainbow. And I think that's supposed to be good news. I was skimming through the Sunday school curriculum for today. The kids are looking at the same stories that we're looking at in worship now. And the big teaching point for Noah's Ark in the Sunday school curriculum, gather around, kids, gather around. When you see a rainbow in the sky, this is God promising that he'll never destroy the earth again with a flood, like he's already done once. I don't think that's very good news. And even if it is good news, it's just God's end of the bargain. Because what about us? We could destroy the earth. It's been this way for, I guess, 80 years now. Can anyone in here remember when they were school children? Would you do drills where you would hide under your desk, and that was supposed to be your shield from nuclear annihilation? I mean, it's been okay for 80 years, basically, but it's just the press of a button. We've got all the time in the world. We could destroy this. And it makes me wonder if maybe God regrets that rainbow. There's regret. Regret, like, what if we hadn't figured out how to split the atom? What if we didn't have to constantly be worried about instant annihilation like that? So there was regret right at the beginning in Noah's Ark. Regret in the past, there's regret in the present. It seems as if regretfulness is just something that is here to stay. We all probably have it. Regretfulness over a job that didn't work out. Regretfulness over an ability or gift that you never nurtured. Regretfulness over a relationship that has gone away. And it's almost as if, by definition, regretfulness is about something that is just final, conclusive. You can only regret something that has been settled. It's because you know that there's really no way to fix it, that you regret it. The only way that you can work with it is if you can work with that feeling of regret. So I wonder if regretfulness is the worst thing in the world. You can spend your whole life just regretting things. You wish so desperately something didn't happen the way it happened, but it did happen, and we all feel it. And we're all going to carry regret to our graves. And that's an awful thought on Rally Sunday. So what does this story tell us beyond regret? What does Noah's Ark mean for us? What does God's covenant with humankind mean? What does that rainbow up in the sky mean? So the story begins with regret, God's regret for having created humankind. And then maybe it ends in regret too, after the flood. It has always seemed to me as if that rainbow in the sky is like God saying, I'm sorry I did that. I will not do that again. And this seems appropriate given how close humankind came to becoming extinct in the story. But I wonder if there's also something more to that rainbow. If it can be a reminder to God, to us, that somehow we will keep going, nevertheless. If you go to pastor's school, you have to do something called clinical pastoral education. What you do is you sit in hospitals next to people who are dying. And because these people are dying, and because they are very thoughtful, they will ask you, why am I dying? Why did I do this or that or this or that? Did my life mean anything? And these are the biggest questions in the world to face. It's way harder to answer a question like this than to write 20 pages on Kant or Hegel or whatever you have to do in the classroom. And if you're used to being a good student, and someone asks you a question like this, it might be your inclination to answer them, to affirm them. No, you shouldn't feel regret. Your life has meant a great deal. Don't be sad, you might say, because you want to answer their question. But because these people are dying, and because they're thoughtful and smart, they'll know you're making it up. They'll know you don't have an idea about what you are saying. But sometimes you meet really wise people, really good chaplains who've sat with people for years and years and years. And when you see someone like this, they will not answer a question like that. Instead, they will just sit with the person who is asking it. They will hold their hand. They will listen. They will nod. And with their body, maybe with their words, they will say, you are accepted. You are loved. God is waiting for you. It's a little bit like looking up to the sky and seeing a rainbow. Even when you're feeling regretful and hopeless, and knowing that God is telling us, somehow we will go on together. Somehow. Amen.